Welcome back to Speak Life, Danny's Decree of Hope podcast, where we bring encouragement for every season of your journey. I'm your host, Danny, and today we're continuing our 3-week series called Hope in Hard Places. Last time, we talked about the weight of difficult seasons and how important it is to acknowledge our emotions while still choosing hope. But what happens when we feel like we just don't have the strength to keep going on? What do we do when exhaustion, grief, or discouragement makes us want to give up? If you're feeling weary, this episode is for you. We're going to talk about what true strength looks like, where it comes from, and how God gives us what we need right when we need it. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's speak life together. Now, I know we all have felt the reality of feeling worn out. We all have reached moments in life when we feel drained physically, emotionally, and even spiritually. Maybe you've been showing up for everyone else, but feel like you have nothing left to give. Maybe the weight of grief, caregiving, or simply life struggles have left you exhausted. Sometimes we even start believing the lie that we should be able to handle it all, that if we just try harder, push through, and stay strong, we'll somehow make it. But here's the truth. Our strength alone will never be enough. And that's okay, because God never asked us to carry the burden on our own. So where does real strength come from? The Bible tells us over and over that our strength doesn't come from ourselves. It comes from God. Isaiah 40:31. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. 2 Corinthians 12:9 and 10. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Now, these verses remind us that God's strength is not just given to us when we feel strong. It actually shows up most powerfully when we are weak. You see, we live in a world that tells us to rely on ourselves, but true strength is not about being independent. It's about being dependent on God. It's about recognizing our limits and leaning into the one who has no limits. Now, I know what it's like to feel drained, to feel like you have nothing left, but still have to keep going. As a hospice chaplain, I walk with families through some of their hardest days. I minister to people who are dying, grieving, and searching for peace. I try to bring comfort when words seem impossible. And while I'm honored to do this work, there are days when I feel completely depleted. There have been moments when I left the bedside and sat in my car feeling empty, asking God, how can I keep doing this? I've had nights where the weight of everything I've seen and felt hits me all at once. In those moments, I've learned something powerful. When I reach the end of myself, God meets me there. I don't have to manufacture my own strength. I don't have to hold everything together. God is my source, and He gives me exactly what I need when I need it. I would like to share with you 4 ways on how to tap into God's strength. If you're in a season where you feel like you don't have the strength to just keep going, here are a few things to remember. Number 1, acknowledge your weakness. It's okay to admit that you're tired. God already knows, and He invites you to bring your weariness to Him. Matthew 11:28, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Secondly, stay connected to your source. Just like a phone battery needs to be recharged, we need to stay plugged into God through prayer, His Word, and time in His presence. Third, let others help you. God often strengthens us through community. Don't be afraid to ask for prayer or lean on those that He's placed in your life. And lastly, take one step at a time. You don't have to have the strength for the entire journey, just for the next step. Trust that God will provide what you need for today. So for the listener today, if you're feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, or just plain weary, know this: you are not failing. You are human, and God's strength is enough to carry you through. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to hold everything together. You simply have to lean on the one who never grows weary and never runs dry and never lets go of you. Take a deep breath, let go of the weight you've been carrying, and trust that God's strength is more than enough. So I want to thank you for spending these moments with me today. And if this episode has encouraged you, I would love for you to do a few things. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, would you leave a 5-star review and a comment? And no matter where you listen, be sure to follow and share this episode with a friend or on your social media. You never know who in your circle needs to hear this message of hope today. Also, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Has this message ministered to you? Have you faced a season of weakness where God showed up? Has He showed you strength in a mighty way? Your story could encourage someone else who needs to know they're not alone. Remember, true strength isn't about holding it all together. It's about knowing who holds you together. So until next time, keep speaking life, because your words have the power to bring hope.